On today's show, we will examine the relationship between the Nigerian army and the Nigerian police force after a police inspector in Adamawa State was killed earlier in the week during a clash between the security operatives. Is there perhaps an interagency rivalry? How can situations like this be curbed to never occur again? But before we delve into the conversation proper, let's give you a brief background into the situation in this intro package. Take a listen.
22nd of November 2023, the Adamawa State Police Headquarters was attacked by armed men in what the Nigeria Police Force confirmed to be an attack by members of the Nigerian Army, and Inspector Jacob Daniel was killed. This unexpected clash of uniforms ignited an unexpected showdown. The two custodians of safety and security, soldiers and police, stained their uniforms, leaving a glaring question mark. It wasn't a heroic battle, but an instance marred by overzealousness, where law enforcers forgot their alliance in a moment of tension. Governor Amadu Fintiri has tried to mediate in order to restore peace. However, a lingering curiosity hangs in the air. What truly sparked this discord? Was it a tale of misunderstanding, rash actions, or a fusion of both? Let's explore the undercurrents that threatened peace and ponder the looming security question.
And of course, a really sad and disturbing story right there, you would agree. And it did happen in Nigeria. Now, gunmen, believed to be military personnel, actually did attack the state police headquarters in Adamawa State. That's Jimeta, Yola North local government area in the early hours of Wednesday, sending residents of Yola into panic. And of course, we know that the governor of the state, Damo Fintiri, and Adamawa Commissioner of Police, Babatola Afolabi, condemned the police attack and called for calm. Responding to the incident, the commissioner actually did warn that any attacks on security personnel in the line of duty will no longer be tolerated. I have with me on the program today Fatai Owosheni, former Commissioner of Police and Special Advisor to the Oyo State Governor on Security Matters, and also Dennis Amakri, security expert, and of course joining me hopefully on the show is Suleiman Ongoroje, that's the Police Public Relations Officer of Adamawa State. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Fatai. Good evening, of course, Dennis.
Good evening to you.
Great. Now, let me start off with you, Fatai, right? This is close to home. You've been in the force, or you were with the force, and you actually understand the inner workings. What do you think, could have actually transpired with this rather very unfortunate incident, very unfortunate, that we saw in Adamawa State?
It is not about what transpired. There is nothing that could have transpired that should necessitate an attack on formations. In this case, the police headquarters. Whether it is between the army, the police, civil defense, or fire services, nothing at all can justify that action. It's not about what happened that we should be talking in the discussion.
The reason why I asked that is because, we'll get into details of the relationship, the somewhat frosty relationship, not just between the police this time and the army. Security agencies generally, particularly in Nigeria. Adamawa is an isolated case. We've seen cases in Lagos. We've seen cases in other parts of the country. But you have been in the force, you understand the workings. What is it like when, let's say, an average police officer, for instance, sees other sister agencies? What goes on? Psychologically, physically, when they are together, when of course they're having meetings and all of that. What exactly, happens to an average, policeman, for instance, who sees a sister agency? Does he consider him, an ally or a rival at first glance?
There's no cause for rivalry. The respective agencies have their duties and their mandates cut out for them. And it's not a relationship of inferior, superior, or master-servant relationship. It is about the fact that all of them are supposed to work together as allies. They're supposed to complement each other. And there is nowhere in the Constitution that the said either fire brigade or the civil defense or the police or the Navy or the Air Force is superior or inferior to anyone. It can only happen in our climate where people are not, made to be accountable for what they've done. The 35 years I spent in the Nigeria police traversed the globe. All over the world, there's mutual respect and complementability among the agencies. It's only in this our climate where the rule of law doesn't mean anything to anyone, and people are not held accountable for whatever they do. And that is why we continue to have it. This is not the first time. It's not the second time. It's not the third time. But have we seen people held accountable for their irresponsibility and rascality? That is it.
Okay, I will just leave you briefly. I'll go to Dennis right now. Dennis, of course, you're very vast and conversant with what happens within, of course, the security network, particularly in Nigeria. Generally, what exactly goes on, I mean, within these particular sectors? Of course, I know that Fatai used the word inferior, superior, and all of that. How do security agencies of different sectors view themselves?
Okay, thank you very much for having me here. Like Mr. Osheni has said, of course, maybe you will not remember me, but I met him at my former command when he came to see the director at that time, the lady director who was there at that time, and I met him. We were talking on the corridors then. I was retired already, and he was still in service. And that shows one thing, cooperation, whereby it is not a master-servant relationship. It's not any kind of inferiority, superiority complex. I have seen a lot when it comes to interrelationship between forces. And of course, military, basically, I will say this, the military itself feels that they are a superior force and other services are subservient to them, but it is not the case. It's not supposed to be the case because everybody has their own responsibility cut out for them, and in other climes, even here, the other day I saw a police pursuit where a military man, I think he was the rank of a sergeant or so, driving down speed. He was drunk. He was driving speedily down the road, breaking the speed, the lights and the speed limits. And the police gave pursuit. And then when they arrested him, they stopped him, arrested him, and he identified himself as a military personnel. And they said, okay, fine. They called his unit, to verify that he's one, looked at his ID, and then, of course, cuffed him and then kept him for his people to come and pick him up because he has flouted the rules of the society. Now, this is what is called professional courtesy, because we all work for the same objective. And I don't see any reason why somebody will feel that you are superior, so you are working for a different country or something like that. No, it's professional courtesy, whereby everybody's responsibility is recognized by the other services, so there is no need for looking down. If it is superior, inferior, that means the superior one should be able to do everything without the junior one.
Okay.
So that's the situation we're facing right now.
All right, Dennis, I'll come back to you. I would like to go back to you, Fatai. You used certain keywords in your introductory analysis. You talked about mutual respect, the rule of law, and more importantly, accountability, right? Now, in this particular case, it was gathered that soldiers actually did attack the police headquarters, to avenge the shooting of one of their own by policemen patrolling a particular area within the state capital. It was further gathered that the military officer was shot in the leg because he attempted to actually disarm an officer doing a stop and search operation. Now, we've seen cases just like what Dennis pointed out, where in the line of duty, particularly for policemen, they try to stop maybe officials of sister agencies, particularly soldiers, and then there's some sort of confrontation. Sometimes it escalates even being physical and all of that. And if it's not managed well, then we see sort of revenge attacks and reprisals. Now, I want to ask you, particularly, during your years in the force, with respect to the kind of trainings, can you just give us an insight into actually the training techniques in terms of orientation, and also that aspect of mutual respect that you said is lacking? Who do we hold responsible for this?
The leadership of the agencies.
Leadership of the agencies. Okay.
Yes. It is not enough for senior officers at the level to interact, relate mutually, and we won't be able to get the other ranks to relate the same way that the senior people related. Some of us have held commands before. I can recognize Mr. Amakri very well. Even with civilians, it's not even just about uniform. There shouldn't be any reason where any of the security or law enforcement agencies would take laws into their hands. We're governed by law. This is not a kangaroo society. So there are protocols set out to handle all this. But in a climate like us, where everything has degenerated, some institutions will say that, our personnel are not trained to act inferior to any other agencies, such that you will see people, that is why you see proliferation of uniform, that every agency, every organization, everybody that wants to wear uniform, even if you put some group of people together today, the first thing they go look for is to look for the highest rank. You see an organization set up yesterday. The first thing is the person who set it out up is looking for is to look for the rank of Major General, if not Field Marshal, or the rank of Inspector General of Police. It's because we attach so many importance to these things that we shouldn't attach importance to. Like I said, mandates is set out for each of the agencies. They're supposed to complement each other. And that is why in internal security operations, which we call heads operations, there are protocols within to follow, even when you are and in situations. There are situations that we start, just like even the Civil War, there was so this is a police action. Once it's internal security operations, the police has the leadership. When it's escalating to a situation where the police is not going to be able to deal with such situation, and you are handing over the military to the military, there are protocols with set out in order to handle command and control. Or, like I said, without accountability, without being people held responsible for their irresponsible actions, we continue like this. I don't know. Yes, so many investigation panels have been set up in previous cases. No one hears the end of it. It's either they don't do diligent prosecution. It's either one agency is hiding its personnel or the other. If we continue that way, because I remember even as of the time we joined the service in the early 80s, we've been having this, but you won't hear the end of the whole thing. And in cases where murder, homicides are committed, and you just leave cases like that. So people will continue to act with impunity if something is not done. Just like Mr. President is the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Mr. President is also the chairman of the police council. And if anything like this happens, that means that it is an affront to the office of the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the chairman of the police council. That is a disrespect to the office of the president. That is a disrespect to the office of the service chiefs. People must be held accountable. This is happening.
We'll still get to the aspect of accountability, but I'm sorry to cut in here. I'm still going to dwell on the aspect of training and, of course, orientation. Most of the time when these issues happen, it's usually within the level of, say, maybe the rank and file. The guys, that's the policemen, the officers on the road. And I mean, it becomes the question, the kind of training or orientation they are given. We understand that maybe the senior officers might, have opportunity to go for courses, interact and mingle with people, still within the security space, across sectors. But I still ask, in terms of the leadership, what kind of orientation or training is usually given to, more importantly, those guys on the road?
The junior ranks, that is the other ranks,
yes,
will not act with impunity if the commanders are responsible. You won't say that you are taking troops out of either the police barracks or the army barracks, a troop, not just 1-2 person, without someone asking to say, where are you guys going? And you are now talking of a police headquarters, not just going to meet someone in its house. Whichever way, like I said, all the agencies, are created by the law, and there should be that mutual respect. What orientation are we talking about? No matter the orientation, if the leadership is not fully in control of the troop, this kind of thing happen. And whatever, I won't even take those ranks, those other ranks.
So you're saying the leadership, we have a leadership deficiency.
I will hold the commander responsible. The commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the service chief, would have to undo this. Whoever that is the commander of that formation has checked in its responsibility.
Anyway, talking about leadership, I would like to go to you, Dennis. Now, it was also alleged that a particular commander, the commander of the 23rd Armored Brigade, Yola Adamawa, still on this, of course, very, very unfortunate incident, Adamawa State, that's Brigadier General Gambo Mohammed, actually did accuse policemen of shooting and injuring a soldier at a checkpoint. He also said that the policemen actually took the injured soldier away. I mean, sometimes we've seen cases where there's a call, placed through, and words like, do you know who I am, what I can do to you, I can lock you up, and all of that. It goes back to leadership that Fatai has raised. In terms of leadership, particularly for, will I call it, sister organizations that are perceived to be of higher training, or a bit of, I'm trying not to use the word, but let me use the word higher training and maybe responsibility, like the soldiers, for instance. Is one, in line to say that maybe because of their level of exposure, they feel that institutions like the police, should sort of listen and obey their beck and call?
Yeah, well, I disagree with you that the police have to.
Okay, so what I'm saying is because you hear phrases like bloody civilian, pardon my French,
yes,
from soldiers.
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Let me tell you, how did that word start? I remember very well. During the Civil War, I was a teenager, but we know, in fact, when the Nigerian soldiers take over towns, I was in the Boy Scouts at that time, and we used to help the soldiers carry the ammunition around. And of course, they believe that every civilian, they have signed to die. Okay, so they can die at any time, but civilians have not signed to die, and then they are filled with blood. those who have signed to die are superhumans. So for those of you who have not signed to die, who are hanging around in the town, you are bloody civilians, because when they shoot you, blood will be coming out of your body, and that's the bloody civilian side of it. Okay, fine. That does not warrant any soldier to do that, to see the civilians as lesser humans, because that was what was happening after the war. Now the thing is that I know they are trained in discipline, serious discipline, and they should. I blame the leadership because they are not oriented towards knowing the final objective of what they are doing. They should be oriented to know that this is a national assignment, and the national assignment includes taking care of the civilian population. You are a soldier does not mean that you are going to now, everybody who is not a soldier is your servant or is a bloody civilian that you can shoot and deal with. So that aspect of training, I think, should be incorporated in them, whereby they know that, yes, we are working for the nation, we are working for the people. And I think the proliferation of soldiers in town, when there is no war, is another aspect that I think we should be looking at. Because now you see them moving up and down. And in fact, before we even go into that, the proliferation of arms and ammunition. I remember when I was in service, if we're going out for an operation and guns are issued down to operatives, they are issued to them. You know how many bullets you are carrying out, you know the kind of type of gun you are taking out, and if you expend anything, when you come back, you will write a statement on what happened for you to expend that bullet. I don't think that happens right now, because right now I find out that even Amoras are selling bullets to people, and then of course, Mopos will carry guns with bullets, fully, armed guns, and they're moving around. And the one that surprised me most is that, and that's why I'm telling you that leadership has failed, especially when it comes to that Adamawa situation, whereby the commander himself, I don't know his rank, but for him to say that because the soldier was, hurt, what I expect him to look at is how did these arms and ammunition get out of the barracks? Because how do they get out? So people can just come in, collect arms, go out into a civilian, not even an enemy territory, into a civilian population and do whatever they want to do and come back, and they are not arrested and locked up at that time. These are things that we have to, that investigation have to look at it very properly.
I mean, these are really, really pivotal and, of course, are really striking issues. But right now, we'll take a breather. And, of course, when we return, we'll be talking about issues surrounding accountability and how, situations like this don't reoccur in the future. Stay with us. This is still Secure the Continent on News Central Television. And of course, we have been discussing the very, very unfortunate incident that happened in Adamawa State, Nigeria, where, of course, we saw gunmen believed to be army officers attack the police headquarters, in the state. And unfortunately, an officer, of the police force was killed. Of course, joining me right now to unpack, of course, they've been with me actually. And of course, they're still on the show. Fatai Owoseni, a former commissioner of police and special advisor to the Oyo State Governor on security matters, and Dennis Amakri, security expert they've been shedding light on this particular very, very unfortunate incident. But I would like to start or continue with you for Ty. Now, let's talk about the perception of the police, particularly when it comes to the public, talking about the general public and maybe sister agencies. Now, in terms of dealing with civilians, the police, on the aspect of trust, I mean, if we are to be sincere in Nigeria, people will tell you that to a very large extent, they might even want to settle issues personally without having to take it to the police officers for lack of trust. And there's also the issue of corruption and bribery and all of that. Do you think that this rather unfortunate negative image, quote and unquote, sort of rubs off on the kind of relationship the police has with other sister agencies, particularly the military?
You see, every country will get a kind of a police it deserves. Put all the other agencies, put military people in uniform out there, and we've been seeing it. That is why where the military also, the leadership in the military needs to address. When they get involved in internal security operations, they do worse than the police. Go on the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road. You see guys in military uniform, beating people with horsewhip and they still collect money. And an average Nigerian would say, oh, it's the police, it's the police. The thing is that every nation will get the kind of police it deserves. It's not for anyone.
I'm sorry, I would appreciate it if you can really break that down. You said every nation gets the kind of police they deserve. So are you saying that Nigeria is deserving of the kind of police officers we have across board?
Nigeria is not even ready. I don't think we are ready to have a police. What we've been talking of is about who controls the police. It's not about who controls the police. It is about the tools you give the police to work with. So any agency, any institution in this country that talks of police is corrupt, there is mistrust. There is no mistrust with the police. People they lack confidence in the government and the people that govern them. People have talked of NSAS. They are just, narrowing it down to the police. NSAS was about lack of confidence in the people that govern us. And thank God this is happening, within the first year of this dispensation, which we can address. It is time for people in uniform, either police, civil defense, DSS, when we joined the service, you won't even see DSS wearing uniform. They won't even introduce themselves as one. Mr. Amakri knows that. But because of this madness where people think once you are in uniform, you are superior to people, to other people, and we use bloody civilians and all those things. All of us have a stake when it comes to security. The people that are not wearing uniform also carry out security and law enforcement duties. The people that are wearing uniform are just the people that are paid to render that service. And you see, the issue of this bloody civilian and whatever, I think it's part of the madness we carried even to the United Nations, that made the United Nations to set up a panel at a point in time. General Brahimi, I think a Pakistani senior military officer, headed that. Because within the United Nations before, because the military had dominated the peacekeeping, they would say, CIPO, the civilian police section and whatever. And our madness probably must have activated that panel that was set up, where it was said there is nothing like the civil police. And that was when the United Nations at the DPK office created an office where there's, the military section and the United Police section. And how did they come about? Because the military, they have the provost, that is those ones that do the work of police within the military. So in order to differentiate the provost of the military police from what the police is doing. So they now say, oh, military police. When they see the other police people, they will say civil police. And the United Nations addressed that a long time ago because I worked there. And of course, most of our highly respected senior military officers know about that was what made the United Nations and the DPKO created the UN police section, the military section. So all of the people wearing uniform, we've worn it before. We should take it off our head to say that, oh, bloody civilians. No, please. The uniform does not confer superiority on you. And in other climes, it's not about carrying gun. And that is why you see everybody now, road safety wants to carry gun. They will set up a piece, whatever. They want to carry gun. Everybody wants to carry gun. We are militarizing the society. And when you militarize the society, you are adding to security challenges within that space. And that is why people will have effrontery, that you've gone to arrest someone, they will put thugs together, and they'll be attacking the police that have gone for the arrest. And the military is also experiencing it now, to the extent that no one even respects the military uniform. And that is why sometimes they use sheer bone face and force to harass people, because we've taken the institutions, the military, the police, the DSS, we've handed ourselves over to the members of the public to think that we've been demystified, sort of, which shouldn't be so.
Okay, so I would like to move to Dennis right now. So, looking at everything that, of course, Fatai has said, I would also like to also pose the question as regards the, will I call it, unfortunate negative perception. Quite a number of people have, particularly about the police. You've talked of leadership being a major deficiency in all of this. Who should be held accountable as regards the quality of force or police force that we have, and also military force that we have right now? In terms of leadership, who should be held accountable? Why is nothing being done?
Okay, thank you very much. When Mr. Ocean was talking, I was actually laughing because we are not trying to apportion blame, but you are asking me a direct question. Who is going to be responsible? And I'll give you one simple answer. One word: the people.
The people? The people. But yes, I'm sorry, but if I'm to take your mind back, the EndSARS happened, and we know why it happened. What happened at the end of the day? Right? We saw the outcome where some soldiers, we saw what happened at the Lekki toll gate. We all know the story, right? So sometimes, even when the people try to talk, right, they are repelled or pushed back with firearms. So the people are left with no choice, but maybe at some point to be left quiet. So how would you blame the people in all of this?
Let me explain it to you, because there is this situation where people always are very emotional. And my own approach to security is that it should not be politicized and it should not be emotional. And that way you can see exactly what the situation is. But when you emotionalize it or, try to politicize it, then you start to give it color, and that is not what we need. I say the people, the root causes of this public distrust of the military or the police or the security agencies coming from the people. Number one, the rule of law. Nigerians are lawless. Lawless. Lawless in the sense that they don't want to obey the law. So I'll give you an example again. Somebody is supposed to have a driver's license. You have to have insurance papers. Your car is supposed to be roadworthy. Then you are supposed to enter into the road, which is a public trust or whatever, to drive your car, considering that there are other Nigerians who are also using it. You will see somebody without a driver's license driving. You see somebody who does not have insurance. He must have gone to buy some kind of third-party nonsense from somewhere, which even the insurance companies don't recognize because he wants to show it to the police. And then he will now drive away. That is lawless. And when a policeman arrests him, what happens? He wants to bribe him so that they will let him go. You know, and then of course, we have a problem where the police or those on the road are not well, you know, the kind of salaries they earn, considering the economic situation in the country, would not mind taking that money and letting this guy go away. So who is corrupting who now? I think it's the people who are supposed to be driving illegally, who are not obeying the rule of law, that are causing the problems.
Okay, so can I also paint a scenario for you? Yes. Okay, now imagine the scenario, which I'm sure happens to quite a number of young people. So a young guy probably is an IT specialist. He happens to dye his hair, maybe keep dreadlocks, right? He has a backpack. He's got his laptop in it. He carries, you know, one of these top phones in his pocket. He's walking on the street. And then a police officer stops him and, you know, just tells him, you look like a quote and unquote Yahoo boy without intelligence.
Yes. And let me tell you, it has happened to my son. He just graduated from University of Technology, Kumasi, you know, and he's
sorry, sir. I'm sorry I need to interrupt. I understand that we need to go for an ad break now. Please hold your thoughts. When we return, we'll pick up from your story. Thank you. Stay with us. Of course, this is still Secure the Continent, and we are taking into perspective the very unfortunate event that happened in Adamawa State. And still with me, of course, I have my guest, Fatai Owosheni, former Commissioner of Police and Special Advisor to the Oyo State Governor and also Security Matters, and Dennis Amakri, a security expert. Thank you so much for your time once again, gentlemen. Dennis, I'd like you to pick up from where you stopped before we went on that commercial break. You were talking about a personal story that happened to your son. All right, so we'd like to touch down on that.
Personal story.
Yes.
Yes. I have a son, my last son. He graduated from the University of Technology, and he's a farmer now. He produces fingerlings, fish fingerlings, which he supplies to different farmers in bigger farms. And he was going to deliver fingerlings with his assistant, and they were driving down the street. And they were stopped by a police patrol team. The police patrol team asked them to park, and they parked, and they said, where are you going? And they told them where they were going. They said, but you look like Yahoo boys. He said, we're not Yahoo boys. You know, we're not Yahoo boys. He said, do you have an identification? No, in fact, it was he that said that I have my identification. And he showed them the identification. And they looked at it. Fortunately, one of them recognized the name, Amakri. So he said, I know your father, you know, or something like that. And he said, yes, that you can, you can check who I am. I'm not into Yahoo or anything like that. And they let them go. Now, what's the lesson there? The lesson is that people don't want to sometimes identify themselves.
But there are cases of people bringing out ID cards and the police officer picking it and swinging it, throwing it away.
Well, you see, one thing is this. If he does that, right now we have phones, we have telephones. That's why I keep on telling people, make sure you record what is going on. Record it and make sure there are witnesses. Sometimes don't be stopped because we have bad eggs everywhere. Don't allow to be stopped by in a very, very lonely place where only you go to a place, a crowded place or something like that. Public should start learning that so that there are other witnesses. The witnesses will bear witness that this is what is happening, you know. But again, remember one thing. Trying to stop somebody because he was carrying a laptop or anything does not mean that there are no Yahoo boys. There are Yahoo boys all over. Okay.
But I'm sorry, we've made reference to advanced crimes, right?
Yes.
Before someone can be picked, I mean, if we are to dwell on this, there must have been some sort of due diligence in terms of investigation. You know, I can give references. I mean, I remember following the story of John Gotti. John Gotti was a known mafia, American mafia individual. And I mean, there were like 3 different attempts, court attempts. He went to court, won the case, went to court, until eventually the FBI was able to garner enough evidence to lock him up. But in most cases, in the case of many Nigerians, it's based on intuition. You look at somebody, color of hair, the way the person is working, the time the person is seen, and then they assume. You know, it's the testimony of quite a number of people, right?
I
wouldn't want us to dwell on this for sake of time.
That's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do. If you let me explain to you.
Mr. Makri.
Okay. If you let me explain to you.
I can help there.
Okay, but let's hear Fatai, please.
You see, all of you would say, oh, in the US, in the UK, what have you done to the police in the United States or the UK? Because they see you black, they profile you. They won't stop you and they won't stop. You are driving the patrol vehicle, just put his headlamp on behind you, you will pull. But here, one, it is wrong to profile people, whether you have dreadlock or not. But here, out of 10 young men that are stopped on the road, all of them are children, 8 of them are children of big men. That will first say, don't you know my father? If you even ask me a question, I'll call my father. That is how this society has degenerated. And how did this start? It was during kidnapping, when kidnappers would have collected the ransom money. They come out of the forest. As they're coming out, people, they would have gotten an intelligence report that, oh, they're coming out of that forest. They're carrying this bag. Check their phone, because the alert with which transfer of ransom was given to them was there. Yes, it's been abused by some of the bad eggs in the police. But when you talk of profiling, everyone talk of Nigeria. It's all over the world. Policing is the same thing all over the world.
Okay.
Go and carry 10 people from Scotland Yard and bring them here. They will behave worse than the Nigerian police. Carry police from Ajegule.
Really?
Carry them to UK.
Oh, yes.
They will behave better than the people that have been in the UK.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
That would definitely that would be news to me, but and maybe to many other Nigerians. But I would want us, because we are pressed for time, gentlemen, I would want us to, of course, come back to the issue on ground. Now, this is not the first time we've seen, particularly the police and the army have face-offs. We've seen, a couple of such happen in places like Lagos. Adama is just another, case study. But it looks like the government or the authorities are handicapped in handling this situation. Hence, we see it happen over and over and over again. What is the way forward, and what is the root cause? I would like to start with you, Fatai.
Who? Myself?
Yes.
What has
Fatai.
happened?
Okay.
That was an affront.
No, let's start with Fatai and then we'll move to Dennis.
Oh, with Fatai. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, you see, what happened, that was an affront to the office of the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, who doubles as the Chairman of Police Council, and it should be taken as such, and people should, like I said, people should be held accountable. This one should not go the way the others have gone. I don't want to take side. I saw so many when I was in service. People are not always held accountable. The leadership of the institutions should come open to say that this has been done. In the case of Adamawa, without prejudice, how can even the commander come out to say, oh, because they stop a soldier on the road? Because you are a soldier doesn't mean that you are superhuman. because you are wearing police uniform doesn't make you to be superhuman to the members of the public. We should first clear it off the head of people wearing uniform, that uniform does not make them to be superior to anybody. All of us are equal, and it is the tax paid by the people that the government use in buying that uniform and the weapons that they are carrying. So they should not go and use the uniform and weapon to threaten and to intimidate people. It's not just about police or military, but in this case, a proper investigation should be done. It should be taken up at the, at the highest level. They've been doing that before, but no result has ever come with that. And it is when there is accountability, when people are made to know that they cannot just act with impunity and go scot-free. That is what will stop it.
All right, Dennis, I'd like to take your reaction swiftly.
Yes, one thing that we are always forgetting is that although the leadership is what matters, the leaders should cooperate. And there are many fora for them to cooperate. I know that when I was director in Lagos, every Monday morning we have our Security Council meeting chaired by the governor of the state. And I don't know, when you have, and that meeting gives us the chance to interact with each other. We talk to each other, we call each other, we do all kinds of things. So why should the brigade commander or whoever is in charge of the military at that time, not even, he refused to answer his calls. And that is from one or two people I've spoken to. He refused to answer his call, and then he came out to the press to come and mention about his boys being shot or something like that. They should interact more. And then, of course, they should talk to their people more, because the orientation is wrong. If they, at the command level, are talking to each other, why should they stop allowing the younger ones to talk to each other? So these are things that they have to look at.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and, of course, the robust conversation. Fatai Awosheni, former Commissioner of Police and Special Advisor to the Oyo State Governor on Security Matters, and Dennis Amakri, Security Expert. Thank you so much for your time. Once again, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Mr. Amakri, good evening.
I will, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, so of course, it's been a bumper pack show. But always remember this: when the satisfaction or the security of another person becomes as significant to one as to one's own satisfaction or security, then the state of love exists. Under no circumstance is a state of love present, regardless of the popular usage of the term. This is a quote by Henry Stark Sullivan. On that note, I say thank you for watching. Let's do this again next time. My name is Dakbo Adigboye. Stay safe.